Hello, adoring YouTube fans or people forced to watch this recording for their AP class. We're going to talk about natural monopoly. And natural monopoly would be things where it is naturally clear that putting in your infrastructure one time makes sense. That would be things like bridges. That would be things like electric power companies. That would be things like your phone company, your water service, and so on. So a natural monopoly is somewhere not where it's necessarily a natural resource like diamonds or something like that, but a situation where it just naturally makes sense that you have one company providing all the infrastructure. For a natural monopoly, we do have some slightly different situational curves here. You do have a demand curve that's bounded by market demand, just like normal. So that's nice. But then things get a little bit wonky. You also have a marginal revenue curve that is divorced from your demand curve with a little wedge right there. And so it's going to look like that. Also, I cheated. Demand curve should not be negative. So here's our demand curve. Here's our marginal revenue curve. These are what we are accustomed to. But then things get a little bit different because your fixed cost for a natural monopoly is very, very, very high. Remember, running all those power lines, building transmission, that sort of thing, or just building your bridge, that's going to be a very, very high cost up front. So your fixed cost is going to be very high, which is going to lead to an average total cost that is rather high. At the same time, you're going to have a marginal cost that is not nearly so high. Let me draw that again. So fixed cost, very, very high. So average total cost is going to continually decrease because variable cost is the next thing. And average total cost will continually decrease. That's because marginal cost is pretty much constant for a natural monopoly. Why is this? Well, once you run your power lines, running the little bit to your house to actually add the service for you is going to be a very low cost relative to the amount of fixed cost it took to put in those power lines, to put in your generation, and so on. So this is what average total cost and marginal cost look like for a monopoly. Now, in this case, you are, as always, going to produce where marginal cost crosses marginal revenue, and you'll go up and find your price at your demand line and go out to find your price. So let's take a look at that. Here's where you'll produce. Here's where you're going to set your price right above. You'll go up to find your price, and then to find profit, you would go out to find profit. So we'll go out like this. But natural monopolies are the types of monopolies that are more likely to run at a loss. The reason being that these are the type of monopolies that are regulated by the government or often even controlled by the government in the case of water service. So here, to find profit, I'm actually going to look in this area between average total cost and marginal cost, and that's where I would find my profit. And I will shade in our profit area right here. Notice I chose magenta. So profit, just like you make a profit on anything, you're going to look at the price you're charging, and then you're going to look at the cost for the product and multiply out your quantity times the spread between cost and charged price, and that is your profit. But let's look at an average at a monopoly that's running at a loss. Okay, so while you were gone, I shifted up the average total cost curve here, and if you look where, well, I need to shift it up a little bit more. If you look at where marginal cost crosses marginal revenue right here, to operate at a loss, you're going to have an average total cost curve that is above your demand curve at this point. So what likely would be happening is you'd have kind of a curve down on your average total cost. It's approaching marginal cost, never going to reach it. And let's find our point where we're producing. We'll go right here to where marginal revenue crosses demand and make a giant dot. And then we'll go up to see what our price is going to be. So to find price, we go up to the demand curve, just like we have in the past. And that's going to be price. But to find profit or loss, we're actually going to have to go out to average total cost, right up here. And that is going to define our loss for us. So we'll go out here to find our cost, and then we'll go up here to find the difference between those two, and that will measure the loss at which our monopoly is operating. So here, come back here, and we'll have our measure for loss. I will shade the area of loss once again in magenta, and you can see where our loss is located. This should be, if I'd drawn it correctly, it would be more rectangular in shape. So that's the area of loss for a monopoly. And the government may regulate a loss for a monopoly for lots of reasons, and we'll take a look at those in the next video.